Hey YouTube, how you guys doing tonight? Well, working on the KE102 build. Tonight we're going to do the Barnett clutch, and I have a lot to go over with you guys. So there's going to be a lot of information here in this particular video that's going to clarify and justify some stuff. Okay? First off, on my last video, I told you it is not recommended for synthetic oil to in the clutch. Okay, it is not recommended for synthetic oil in the factory clutch. You can use synthetic in the Barnett clutches. There's that one right there. Okay, that's the first thing I wanted to go over. So if you want to use synthetic, they do make a synthetic gear oil that is specifically for clutches, for conditioning, if you will. So I just wanted to let you know that you can use a synthetic in there. You just have to use it with the proper. If you have a factory clutch, I think it was not recommended for this. Okay, so those of you who have the Trail Boss, okay, this has got a Trail Boss head on it from 1972. This cylinder head right here came off the 10-speed, which you guys have seen me use. This is the high compression head and requires a different spark plug than the KE100s do. Okay. The KE is like a B8. This is a B7. It required the Trail Boss 100 and the early 70s model KE100s with the high compression cylinder head. Take the spark plug number B7HS. Now I wanted to replace it with a platinum plug. I told you my video that I did with the when I put the head on. I wanted to replace it with a platinum plug because, well, iridium is kind of a waste of money because of the fact that the ignition system is not really powerful enough to utilize its full potential. It will work like a platinum plug, it's just not going to be at its maximum, capability. So I went to the parts store, I looked around trying to find the replacement platinum plug for this to replace the B7HS. They don't make them, so you're stuck with an iridium plug. So I ended up getting an iridium plug for the Trail Boss 100, and that's the part number right there. BR7HIX. It is a, the iridium plug. So, unfortunately, it's going to work just fine. I'm just not going to be able to use the full potential. It's going to perform like a regular platinum plug is what I'm saying. So a platinum plug and an iridium plug in this motor is not really going to perform any difference because of the output of the ignition. That's what I'm saying. So, now we got past that. Okay, so we're going to get into the clutch tonight, and I'm just going over a whole bunch of things with you guys. So I got some cool tips for you and what I did. So we're going to focus over to the stove. There we go. I'm doing this in the house because it's nighttime and it's buggy outside and blah blah blah. So the clutch packs are in here. Okay, there's 4 discs and they've been marinating in oil for over 24 hours. And I don't know if you can see it or not, there are nails. I moved them to the middle. I put nails across of them so that they wouldn't be touching, so the oil could pass through them. And I let them soak that way. You don't have to, but that's the way I did. Some people put them in a bigger container and scatter them out. I just happen to use a small container because it's compact and I can put the nails in there and work just fine. So tonight we're installing the Barnett clutch. This bike has already received a clutch. I found a screw that was stripped out down bottom and it's in the wrong spot and blah blah blah. Okay, so the next part I'm going to show you guys is a little helpful hint and tip. And it's going to help you guys out when you take these apart because the bolts that you need to take out are in different spots. Okay, they're not in the same spot. They're in many different spots. And they're right there, different lengths and sizes and all that jazz. Okay, so what I did was I took a piece of paper. I took the paper that the gasket came in. Alright, so let me show you that. So I took the gasket right here and I traced out this gasket. Okay? After I traced out this gasket, I then poked holes where all the bolts are. Okay. So let me show you this right here. This is the schematic right here. I drawed out the what do you call it, the shape of the gasket. I poked the holes and I put the screws in where they go. Alright. Now for you guys who have already taken these apart and don't, oh my god, I don't know where which size screws. I measured each screw and I put them where they go. Okay. So for instance, these two screws right here are 2 inches and 5/16. These ones right here happen to be all the same at the bottom and one at the top, and they're 1 inch and 5/32. These two right here are 1 inch and 3/4. I marked it front, and these right here simulate the engine mount. Okay, where it mounts onto the engine, and you can see from underneath how it looks. Okay, I do that so that I know where each screw came out of. I can unscrew it from the motor and plop it right into its adjacent hole in this diagram. Now, say I had to order a part. Say something was broken in there, and I have to go back to this thing. Say eBay sends it out maybe a week later. Oh, I don't remember what bolt went in that hole. Oh, man. And I forgot that I have it all apart, so I couldn't put the screws back in it. There you go. That's your beautiful tip right there. Okay, so I got that right there. I did that for you guys, so you guys know what the lengths are. It's all here in black and white, and it makes your life a little easier, and it makes mine a little easier. Okay, so now you know what screws go where. Actually, I'm going to hold that up for you guys for a quick second and show you. Right there. And each screw right here, I measured these screws from the back of the head, not the top, but the back side, to the tip. Okay, just the just the shank and the threaded part, not the head. So from the back side of the head to the end here, and I used my micrometer and had set the fractions. So it's measured in fractions. That's how you got to do it. You can see my little cylinder right there, and I hope that helps you guys out when you guys doing yours. So now you can use this video as a reference and help you out. I'm going to put this up on the screen real quick. This is the parts list for all the parts needed. Actually, yeah, you can see if I can move that out. You guys will probably have to zap in. I'll just move them closer. So you get your friction plate, your steel plate, your friction plate, steel, and that's why it's numbered like this. See, you got your first one on is a friction, steel, steel, and that's why they're color coded. And then over here is your gasket number, and then of course your spring kit. And these are all the Barnett part numbers. So keep that in mind. Those are all Barnett part numbers. So when you're going to do this clutch, and you install your, you go and get a Barnett system. Now, for a lot of people who don't deal with clutches, you probably don't know what I mean by steel plate and friction plates, and steel plate and friction plates. So I'm going to show you what that means right now. This is a cheap clutch. So I mean, it's not cheap. It's cheap costing, but it's actually a decent clutch. Clutch plates, and these are here are made by factory spec. I got these online. They were 13 bucks for just the discs. But we're installing a Barnett clutch, performance clutch, which is made of Kevlar, and it's a little bit stronger. So here's how the stack was going to look. Okay, when you get your basket, I'm going to go over this again. You have your clutch, steel, clutch, steel, or actually friction disc, steel, friction disc. So I'm going to go one more time. Friction, steel, friction, steel, friction, steel, friction. Okay, and then of course on this end will be a steel, and on the bottom will be a steel, and these all get sandwiched in there. Okay, so we're going to start pulling this thing apart. And a lot of you guys notice that when you go to take that bolt, you take that bolt right there for your Kickstarter all the way out. It's loose as a goose, but it will not come off. And everybody asks, Kevin, what do you use? Because I take a screwdriver and stick it in there and I hit it with a hammer and it expands it. Well, yeah, that's one way of doing it. A lot of people do it that way. And what sometimes happens, if you use too big of a screwdriver, you can crack it or fracture it and all that. So, let me show you what I use. You're going to like this one. On the Fords, we use top post batteries. And on the old cars, this is an old battery terminal puller. Okay? Just a real old battery terminal puller. You can get these at any parts store or hardware store. Normally keep them. I just slip this right on. Tighten it up. Make sure I'm on it. There's normally just like a little burr in there that it catches on, you know. Then once I feel it loosen up, I'll try getting it off by hand, if I can. Nope, still can't get it off. Now just tighten that up some more. Can you guys see that? I just literally just pulling it right off. And that is what I use for a puller. And this way I don't take a chance of taking a screwdriver and messing up the shaft. Okay, now that that part's done, this shaft right here on the back side can rust up pretty badly. So normally what I'll do is I'll take some sandpaper and clean that piece up. Try not to go too close to the seal. You're going to feel it, make sure it's nice and smooth, because you don't want any, what do you call it there, casualties on that. Alright. I'm going to take a, for this, because I'm working here, I'm going to lift the motor up a little bit. Actually, before I go any further, your next step underneath your bike is a drain plug. I'll show you that right here. You can see it or not. Right there's your drain plug. Right there, you can see it's the only plug at the bottom. And that's a 17mm head. And you can take that off and drain all the oil out right from the crankcase. Or actually, it's not crankcase, the transmission case. Okay, so now that we got the oils out and everything else, some of the screws are already been removed from this, because this engine, like I told you guys before, was going to be a parts engine before I decided to build it. And it was one of those things that had really low mileage on it, but it had some issues, which I've obviously worked out by replacing the cylinder and all that. The piston, you could flop it around, it was awful. Alright, so I'm going to use that, actually I'll probably just use this to throw underneath of it. Okay, no, that didn't work out too well. There we go, like that. Okay, so now I just wanted to caulk it up a little bit so I can easily, you know, access everything. Okay, so the next tool you're going to need is what they call an impact driver. This is an impact driver right here. And I'm going to show you how this works. And it comes with a kit. Here's your kit right here. And it comes with the flatheads and one a pointy Phillips. This one's got the flat end on it. I use the flat end. And what you're going to do, you can use any hammer you want. I'm using a household hammer because these ain't that strong. So, because you really don't need to beat the heck out of these things, you know. So you're going to stick this onto the Phillips screw. Like that, and you're going to whack the end of this as you're putting pressure on the direction you want to go in. Okay? So in other words, don't just put it on there and beat on it. You want to put it on, twist it as you're hitting it, and then it'll loosen up. And what I do is I go all the way around it one time, loosen all the ones up, and then I go around with my drill and just zap them off. So This is a stripped out one right here. And they got, this is the wrong screw and it's stripped out. And then of course there will be screws around that end right there, but those right there have already been removed. So no further screws are left. By the way, you guys can do this while it's on the bike. You don't have to do it while it's off the bike. Just a little FYI for you. There's your fill plug right there, and that's your sight plug right there. So we're going to try taking this apart, see if it'll come apart easy. If not, I might have to tap on it. Now I'm going to tap on the case, but I don't want to mar up the case, so I'm going to put a rag in between where I'm going to tap. Okay. Like I said, there's always residual. Always residual oil. Remember that. Okay. Beautiful. Always do your double takes and make sure you get all your screws off too. Okay, so now we get that part loose. It still won't free up. So I'm going to give it a little bit more love tapping. I'm going to stick that right there as it in the hole for where the grommet goes. Okay. Really what I'm stuck on is the starter shaft, I believe. Yeah. Okay. Now, sometimes this gear will pop off. If it does, don't worry about it. This is your white oil pump gear right here. Okay. Just make sure it has the key. The key does not fall out. It's real simple. Just keep this thing going either direction. It fits in just like that, and then fits back into the hole right there like so. Okay, now we're at the clutch. Okay, I also want to say something else. A lot of these, obviously you're not going to be doing most of you will not be doing it the way I am doing it on your kitchen counter here. Okay, this is kind of warped, but with all due respect, it is what it is. But here's what I want to tell you guys: wash your engine, okay, before you take it off the bike, because right up in here is going to be all sand and grime and everything else, and that stuff is going to get into your engine, and we don't want that. Okay, we don't want that. That's bad. So as long as it doesn't get into your engine, we're good to go. Now we're going to work on the clutch. This is called your clutch basket. All right, real simple, real basic system. They obviously put a new clutch in it. I don't know what type of clutch they did, but we're gonna take it apart anyway and get that part out. So let me get make sure I got the right socket, and I do, 8mm, and we get a ratchet like that. Alright, I put my ratchet down there. Go and put it. Oh, I know where it is. I used it on my four-wheeler. I'll be right back. I tried to gather everything up before I got into it, so apologize about that. Okay, now we're just going to take all these bolts out. Really nothing difficult to do. And the other thing you want to keep in mind is on the inside of your clutch, right here, that's the retainer right there. Well, not really a retainer, but it goes right here like that and activates your clutch. It's your plunger right there for your clutch. And then you get your little plunger piece right there that it rides on. And the ball bearings like that. One's inside there. I don't know if you can see that or not. This is going to be a two-part video too, by the way. Just wanted to let you guys know about that. Okay. It's nice working in the house, I'm not going to lie to you, because it's very muggy out right now. Okay, so what I did here, show you what I did. I backed out, I took off, let's see if I can expand you guys up a little bit so you guys can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so I took off the two screws here completely and took off two on the side, and then I'm just left with these two. I'm going to back these two off together pretty much so that I can relieve the pressure on the spring plate. This plate right here is your spring plate. And that's going to expose all 6 of your springs. Now these springs are small. You might notice how small they are. Okay? We're going to have a little bit of a difficult time because the new springs are much bigger. This came up in a forum. Okay? My springs are way bigger. They are the correct ones. They are the same diameter. They just have a lot more pressure to them. Okay, so putting these in is going to be difficult. Putting these in. I'm going to show you guys my technique for doing these. There's a lot of screaming and Hail Marys thrown in, but you'll see. Okay. After all that's done, you want to pull this out, but you can't. Okay, you can't pull that apart. It will not come apart even after the spring plate is off. You're going to need a pair of these. Okay? Snap ring pliers. So I'm going to use that and take off the retainer ring. This can be tricky, especially when you're looking down on it. That's the retainer ring right there. pop that off, and then this whole thing should come apart. Should be able to take the whole thing right off. Okay. There's a big spring on the back. Make sure that right there keeps the pressure on it, and then it's keyed in on the back here for the clutch drive. So that can go on there like that, stay on there like that, like so. Okay. You have an arrow. It's really not lined up with anything. Some of them have other marks, but that's okay because we're going to do this just this way. I'm going to actually show you this. Let's get back onto where I'm working. I got the clutch off. Okay. I'm going to go back over this real quick. Okay, so that spring that goes on the back goes on to right here. And then, when you're putting this thing all together, there's these grooves right here. They made up with the keys on here. Alright, so I'm going to put the clutch facing forward. I should push this whole thing up there. Alright, so right now I'm going to stop the clutch part. And a gentleman asked me, Kevin, how do you do the crankshaft seals? I want to freshen up my crankshaft seals. Okay, so we're going to stop the clutch. We're going to talk about crankshaft seals real quick. This nut right here, you'll have to remove this nut and then this gear comes off. Then you're going to have to remove this cover. This cover is your intake, your oil injection, and then in back of this plate, you're going to see the, what do you call it there? The rotary valve. This is your rotary valve cover. But your crankshaft seal, the seal that's for this crankshaft, is right in back of this gear. So you're going to pop this gear off, and the seal is right in this cover. You can actually take this cover off and just pop the seal out. Real simple. And then, on the back side of this, let's remove this clutch completely. Just get this right out of here, so I don't damage anything. Move all this stuff out of the way. On the back side, right there, you take your magneto off, you take off your stator and your armature and your points, and that's the seal for the other side of the crank. And that's pretty much it. Then you just make sure you drive them in. They're going to be nice and flush with the, with the outer part. As long as you put them in nicely, you should be all set. Lube them, pop them in, tap them in, you'll be good to go. And that's where your two crankshaft seals are located. This one's perfect, so I'm not going to mess with them. This thing's got really, really low mileage on it. So, that's how you do the crankshaft seal. So, for those who are asked, crankshaft seal is into your, what do you call it there, rotary valve cover, or intake. Because your carburetor sits right on that little tube, well, big tube right there. And then that hose that goes from your oil up and over goes right through here. And whenever you take these things apart, is a good time to inspect the seals and make sure that the O-rings are good, they're not cracked, and they're not split. Because this pops out. That's your oil gallery. These are here what shoots the oil into the engine, Then you get your intake seal, which these all look beautiful. So no sense of changing anything there. Okay, so I want to go over that with you guys and show you that your rotary cover, the seal for the crankshaft, is right in back of this gear that drives your clutch. Okay, so back to the clutch. Move that back there. All right, for this next part, I'm going to grab my plastic. I'm using a lot of plastics tonight, guys. Hope you don't mind. We're going to just toss this right here for now, because right now we're going to build this clutch. Alright, let me show you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm going to back you up a little bit. There we go. Alright. Make sure you're focused in. You guys look beautiful. Okay, so this is the clutch. There is a thrust washer. And it's sometimes hard to see because it blends in. This thrust washer right here is what the snap ring rides on. Okay, so you want to make sure you have your thrust washer with your snap ring. Like that right there. And that right there helps the snap ring rotate. Okay, so next thing is we're going to pop off the top piece right here. Pull this thing right apart. I'm putting this so the arrow's facing forward. Make sure the clutches come off. Sometimes they stick. Like in this case. Taking this off. So you clutch your steels, all that type of stuff. These clutches are in good shape. These are like brand new. Holy crap, those are brand new. Well, they're getting changed out anyway. Because that's how we roll. No sense of doing a clutch video if you're not going to replace the clutches, right? Alright, so I have good clutches and good steels, but I'll hold on to these for another one. So what I'm going to do with those real quick. Since I'm in the kitchen, bada bing, bada bada boom. I'm going to grab myself a nice baggie. Whoop. One of the benefits to doing this in the kitchen late at night. Put those right in there, keep them nice and cleaned and oiled. Bam! It's a nice clutch. Take that for a spare for one of my dirt bikes. Okay. Now we're going to get into the nitty gritty of it. Okay, we got our steels. 3 steels. 4-pack of Kevlar Barnett clutches. You ain't getting better than a Barnett. Alright, so what I always like to do is take a rag and wipe off the inside of the drum. Just to get rid of, don't forget your other thrust washer right there. Very important. Make sure there's no cracks, no residue, nothing. Just want to make sure it's nice and pretty and clean. You can see all the crap in there, you know, right there, see it? So I wipe it all off. Make sure we're getting a nice fresh start. These clutches are really nice. You can't go wrong with a Barnett. They're race proven. They're good quality. Everybody swears by them. They use them in Harleys. I mean, they're the clutch to have. Okay, the other thing you're going to want to inspect is make sure your bearing on the inside here is a flat brass bearing insert. It's like a what do you call it there? It's a bushing, really, a bushing style bearing. You want to make sure that right there is in excellent condition. Mine is. Check your teeth. Make sure there's no broken teeth. Make sure the whole thing. Just give it a good old once over. Make sure it's inspected good. There's no issues. Check your crank gear. Make sure there's none there. Okay, we'll look like we're in good shape here. Yeah, we do. We're in very good shape. Okay. Alright, so now that we got that done, I'm going to put my thrust washer back on. Just like that in the middle there. And, what do you call it there? If you find yourself, the thrust washer, it can't hold it straight, I'm going to use my Permatex assembly lube. This company, I swear by, it's amazing. You see this a lot used in a lot of my videos. The assembly lube stuff is great. You can get it right at the pot store. Just going to put a little dab there just to hold it. Perfect. Rotate it a little bit. There we go. Good. Alright. Now for the rest of this thing. Okay. You got 2 parts to this. You got your wheel that spins in here freely. Okay. See if I got that right. Yep, it goes like that. This goes through the center here. Just like that. Make sure it fits in there properly, because you don't want this thing to fit improperly. Okay, because there's little bosses in there. You want to make sure that's all sit, you know what I mean? Because there's like different places where it can grab from and catch and get all kind of catawampus in there. Okay. That's your first steel plate. Remember I was telling you about the steel plate? That's your first steel plate. You're going to want to make sure that surface is good, that there's no overheat marks, and there's no cracks. Okay, you shouldn't see any cracks. It should be just a nice, smooth surface. Okay, just make sure it's nice and smooth, that there's no cracks. It's not all warped to heck. These are the lugs right here for the springs. Make sure make sure there's no damage. Basically, what I'm saying to you. That fits inside there like so. Then we take our Barnett clutch and we start the assembly process. One Barnett friction disc. Ha 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 ha. Okay, let's get that set up in there. Fits in there tight, please. Gotta get that in just right. Tell you that. Okay. Here we go. Just like that. Yeah. What do you call it? That goes like that. Then we're going to use a steel. Then we're going to use another friction disc. These fit in there tight. Holy crap. You don't want to tap them down either. Then a steel. Then another friction. These have been marinating. And remember, this is a performance clutch. So it's going to fit nice and tight and snug. Then your other steel. Then another friction. Like so. And now for the fun part. Installing this hub. Okay, that just made me out to be a liar because that never happens. Okay, that never happens. And that's basically how you install your clutch. Just like that. Boom. Okay, after you get that all done, the spring part is fun. But we're going to install this on the engine first. So, let's get that installed. I kind of like to keep my workspace as clean and as organized as possible. We're going to end up doing this in 2 parts, by the way, but I just figured I'd let you know. Okay, so move this clutch over here. Grab the engine. You can stick it up on your end if you want, like that. That's what I'm going to do, just because I'm already right here. Okay, make sure you check your springs, inspect everything, make sure everything's going the way it's going. There's a thrust washer in back here as well that the spring rides on. Oh, let me get you guys focused in over here. Sorry about that. Okay. So, let's see here. Okay, it goes thrust washer here. Then you got a spring, just like that. And then your clutch. And it's going to mesh into the gears there. So you want to make sure it's seated all the way in. Remember I told you it was going to be a little difficult? Yep, these right here came all out of alignment. This is the fun part of the clutch right here that I love to do. This means it's tight, right? Okay. Shows no gaps. Okay, I'm going to set this down straight for a second because I'm still not into all the clutches or the plate. I'm set back, but I'm not into the plates. Okay. I have a feeling something's not right here. Okay. That clutch should be sitting right into it. Got the washer, the spacer right there, the thrust washer. That should not be gapped like that. Help if I lined it up, right? Alright, gonna do it one more time. Having a little bit of a issue lining that up. Sometimes they go right in, sometimes they don't. It's almost like there's a burr on the what do you call it? The on it. There we go. Okay, now interesting. Even after all that, it's still not lining up. So we gotta find out what's going on with this thing here. Spring is on. That's all the way in. Doesn't feel all the way in. Alright, we're going to take this part one more time. See if I can't find out what's going on with it. Okay. Well, I guess what we're going to do, we're going to cheat. We're going to assemble the clutch pack first. Then stick it together and see if I can get that clip in there. The snap ring clip. So we got the thrust washer that goes there, which is right here. Okay. Alright, let's cheat. Sometimes when you have a new clutch and it's that tight, time to do some reinforcements. Okay. Now, put this down on a rag. We're going to grab the spring and try doing it this way. See if we can even assemble it this way. I've never done it this way before. So I don't even know if it's going to work. Just make sure these are long enough. Yeah, I think I might be able to get this. Okay. That's like that. These screws are not going to line into it to allow you to get it. So I'm going to do one side first. I'm going to push down. That's not going to work either. Whew, okay. We need a plan B. To get to those screws, to get those in there, which are really, really tight, we need to compress that clutch. Now I got to figure out how I'm going to compress that clutch. So I can at least put a screw into it to hold it, which is fun in itself. Alright. What would MacGyver do? Alright. Those spring clutches are in there. In there. Okay. This is a piece of solder. Okay. Oh, that old trick ain't gonna work. So we gotta go plan B1/2. Probably asking yourself, what is B1/2? Alright, well, these clutches right here are in there, and these springs are tight. This thing's going to have some massive gripping power, so we need to be able to work with that. So I'm going to figure this out, how I'm going to do this, and we're going to take this to video number 2 in a little bit. I'm going to take a short break, and this is going to be part 1. When I come back for part 2, we're going to have this all figured out. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. This is KE102 clutch video number 1.